thank you, Apostolos, for the opportunity to put a few things on a realistic tone. We heard a lot of things today, of course. We hear many things over the past 3-4 years about decarbonization, the path to 2030, the first milestone, and then to 2050. Of course, we are all putting the finger to shipping, which, according to two easy calculations that you can do, pollutes, is responsible for 2.24 of the world's CO2 emissions. Why it's 2.24? A simple percentage of a percentage. Shipping is part of transportation. Transportation as an industry pollutes by 16%. These are the GHG emissions. And maritime, which is our industry, is only attributing 14%. So these two is quite a small figure. If we look also how the CO2 emissions of shipping, of maritime, are divided, we see that the big majority comes from container ships. Then we have the bulkers, which are more in number of ships. And last but not least, of course, the tankers. This creates the need, definitely, to be aware, to do something about the environment. I'm not slamming that we shouldn't be concerned about reducing the emissions and polluting less, but definitely there are ways of doing it in a practical way. And this is what I will try to explain from the position of a broker, of a shipbroker who sees things in a commercial manner and not a technical manner. RightShip has come in since 2012 and has given a rating for ships depending on their efficiency and how efficient their CO2 emissions are. Of course, we see stickers like we have on our electric appliances coming as certificates on ships, and ships being rated according to their emissions. EXI and GHG are ratings which we see that they become a vital part of an asset assessment prior buyers expressing their purchase interest. In the past, when a ship was a candidate, a potential candidate, the first things that a potential buyer was asking was, send me the particulars, send me the time charter description, I want to see speed, consumptions, and of course the ship's particulars, the cubics, class position, whatever. Now the first thing that they want to see is how do these ships, how does this ship fare in its emission ratings? So this is something that has become a new trend in sale and purchase and our broking profession. Of course, the solutions to successfully complying with EXI and CII are complex, and we need to become a bit more realistic when it comes down to CII. CII has been imposed to practically all ships of all categories, and it's a badly designed figure. Definitely, it has to be readjusted, recalculated, reinvented, I would say. I would be very harsh, before it becomes an insignificant value metric which nobody will just take into consideration. Just an example I will give you to see how badly it's designed. A ship that just operates around a port and has a lot of waiting time gets penalized. Tugboats, bunkering tankers, they operate in ports. They don't have a better rating than E, and they cannot get a better rating than E unless they stop operating in what they're made to be operating in, which makes it a bit of a catch-22. How do I take CII seriously when that is not seriously designed? Anyway, it is what it is, and we move on. An analysis by ABS suggests that these large percentages of ships, exceeding 60% in LNG and exceeding 92% in containers, have to require modifications and operational changes of any kind to achieve ABC energy efficiency ratings. It is obvious that retrofits or any modifications that we can do. We heard today also, Apostolos, some very nice suggestions. One suggestion, of course, is hull paints, which give a good efficiency, automations, you name it. There are so many other things that we can do today to improve the ratings, and these are on the right direction. It goes down to my topic, which means practical and doable solutions. These we endorse. However, financing is a constraint, financing is a problem. It's not available for everybody, especially for the backbone of Greek shipping, which is small to medium-sized companies. They might not have the ability, especially if their ships are not positively rated today, because financing will move on to ESG, and if you are not with good scores, then your financing possibilities and financing sources become a bit limited. That is an issue that we will soon, if not today, we're going to soon be facing. It comes down to, surprisingly, I would say, how few ships today, this is the order book that you see, how few ships today have adopted alternative fuels. Even containers, which are the heaviest of burners, they do plus 20 knots and they exceed their consumptions 150 tons and more, even to 200, 220 tons. So any new building today makes a great incentive in containers to have a reduction, even if you just use fuel technology. But I would expect this figure to be greater than just 16.8% being fuel capable. And I'm just saying the word capable because these are the real alternative fuel vessels. The ready vessels are just marketing. Ready vessels are nothing. They don't even have any kind of infrastructure on board that allows tomorrow, at a snap of a finger, at a turn of a key, to run on dual fuel. Another constraint that we're going to face as we approach 2030 is the aging fleet, and the fleet of today that will be older in the year 2030. Today, 77% of the fleet is older than 10 years. In the year 2030, we will be having 69% of the bulkers, 86% of the general cargo fleet, 76 of the tankers, 72 of the container, and 61 of the gas carrier fleet will be older than 16 years old. There is not enough shipbuilding capacity, time, and finance in order to be able to start producing new builds, even if today we know which fuel will be used, or if we decide to just continue using fuel, IFO. We talked about methanol today. I heard with great interest that yes, it's maybe one of the easiest alternative fuels that we can have a transition in both infrastructure and also on board the ship. Right. Let's take an example. You place a new building order today for a Japanese-built Kamsarmax. It's the best technology can give you, Tier 3, EDI 2 or EDI 3, and it costs 42 million. The equivalent that can burn methanol, you need extra 8 million of capex, and you move up to 50 million as a total investment. Let's see also some other vital statistics. Methanol as a fuel, because of its calorific output, needs double quantity to produce the same output, the same result. Today, the price of grey methanol is about the same as the price of HFO. On this assumption, we estimate that a methanol-fueled vessel will have double the bunker cost than one burning fuel oil. However, as we progress across 2030 and above, we'll need to move from grey methanol to biomethanol or carbon recycled e-methanol, which today the cost of producing is estimated to be double the price of grey methanol. So you will be running a ship possibly with 4 times the bunkering daily expenses. That ship can be chartered at 18,000 today. Will a charterer come and tell you your ship is fantastic because it's green and I will give you a premium when that ship will cost him double or even 4 times his daily bunkering expenses, you have to cover your 8 million extra capex. Will you get that money back? Will you get a premium? Because, I mean, we're moving green to get something back. Here, you don't get something back. To the contrary, you will be penalized because that ship is a heavy burner in money. So many questions. I would like somebody, anybody, one of these many questions to answer. If a green investment is much more expensive to invest in, above all to run, will this more expensive business attract a premium or obtain a discount? I already posed the question to you. Is the green hype and green benefits enough to offset the higher capex and opex? I don't know. A new fuel, any fuel, let's call this is the new fuel of tomorrow. We'll need a dual-fueled ship, a new fuel production to produce it, a new fuel storing and transportation to place it close to the bunkering, and a new bunkering infrastructure. We need capital, we need infrastructure, and we need also to calculate the carbon footprint to create and enable all of the above. And if we're not talking about only one fuel, but multiples, then what I said before is in multiples again. Can anyone answer? I believe no. And now this is the final good example, which makes me a bit positive, and I can at least see something see some light in the tunnel. We have witnessed a Japanese Kamsarmax that was delivered to her owners in October 2023 from a top Japanese shipyard. She does 11.2 knots, burning 12 tons of fuel and 2 tons of diesel. In ballast, this ship has more or less 12 knots at the same consumptions. For comparison purposes, a non-eco Japanese Kamsarmax burns around 24 tons plus 2. What we see is that this modern vessel, which utilizes very good ship lines, very good technology, very good engine, and above all Japanese know-how and R&D, has achieved reductions between 37 and 40% comparing to an eco vessel with an electronic engine, and more than 50% from a non-eco ship, which I would consider a lean burner, an equivalent Kamsarmax, which doesn't burn 30 tons but burns around 25, 26. I think this is something that can be considered very seriously today, because we're not trying to reinvent many wheels, but we're just trying to optimize the wheel that we have and the wheel that we all know can roll easily. Last but very, very, very quickly, we heard about an automation of autonomous navigation that optimizes the ship's sailing and has brought reductions of 15% down in fuel consumption and about 10% down in its carbon emissions. If this is true, this is again R&D that we should follow, and maybe this is something that, again, retrofits, these kind of automations, new ship designs, in general, all these can work together. Ship hull paints, rotor sails, anything that can reduce the consumption of fuel today. But for me, as a final remark, I think that today, knowing the constraints that we are facing, what we can give with today's technology based on fuel is pragmatic and sustainable. Thank you very much.